You are the front. We roll. And all y'all doing
Explicit
nothing. You need
content.
it. Come find me. I'll hit you with the potion, man. All we do is grind.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's your morning cup of tea.
Oh, don't tell me what, tell me who. And
Yep.
brain jerk fellas, pillars of the community. I'm honored to be here,
Yep.
but
They're the Wu-Tang Clan as shit gets deep.
Their actual superpower is something called the synchronicity wave.
Oh, man.
you know, I'm not the moral police.
Right.
Like, do your thing.
Yeah.
Just we're going to be doing this over here, and we're going to be learning and educating so we can pass it on down the line.
And use your ability to feel the turn of the universe, to really understand and empathize with your fellow man, to improve their day just a little bit.
It's the brain jerk era. Welcome to the brain jerk era. Welcome to the brain jerk.
Good morning, the jerk-offs. How is everybody today? Good morning, good morning. I see Night Train. Night Train's here. You look like you feel about almost similar to me. I feel a little groggy this morning, if I'm not going to lie.
It's Tuesday. I got really nothing to do, but I've been staring at the computer this morning doing 107 while I'm waiting on print. So lots of sectional charts and maps, and my eyes are burned.
Yep, I seen a lot of the maps. I looked it up a little bit after we had talked.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of the maps, and I was like, oh wow, I don't even know how to read this. What up, Blind Neil? Good morning. Blind Neil says good morning to everybody. He said he bets those charts are crazy. What up, native? Michigan native in the house. Good morning, JCT. Good morning, Naughty Nikki. Good morning, KR Tooley. Hope everybody's. What up, Scott? Good to see everybody today. I have a confession to make. I was stretching right before the show, and I hurt myself like an old man would.
Every time I stretch, I hurt myself.
Like mid back all the way down to like where my kidney would be is just tight as F now. Oh man, it's not a fun time.
I get it.
I knew you would. What up, Keithy? Good to see you. Good morning, squirrels. I love it. I love seeing you guys in the morning. Oh man. So yesterday I had practice. We did practice. Dudes, they're looking good. They're looking good. I put a little video out of a really quick 20-second mashup video of
Ooh, there we go. Massage therapist. All right.
Really? Well, I don't have money for that. So I'm going to have to find someone to do it pro bono. And you got to be careful for asking for pro boners, right? Because
Right. You might get left eye.
is in big trouble for that stuff. He's probably over every massage therapist. He's like, hey, do you give happy endings? Every one of them. It's a numbers game, right?
Right.
Sooner or later, he's
That'll
missing
work.
8 games, all because he wanted something else massaged. Silly boys. That's Andy's missing out on his money too. Not only on the 8 games, but money for that 8 games. And that dude makes millions every game, I think.
Which means he can afford to lose some, but still.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's not living like
Like
some poor peasant off the street. He's probably spending tons. So
I'm pretty sure he's the highest paid quarterback in the league right now. Most frequent asked questions. Yep. I figured. That's because that's all you see in the movies. You see those little Asian shops, and it's like, oh, happy ending. Or in those rich mobster movies, they're always going to the sauna, and there's a happy ending waiting in there.
Oh, you want wax job?
Funny as hell. Funny as hell. I just think sometimes it's hilarious how perverted society is nowadays, or even in general. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not talking shit about it. I just find it's one of those things I find funny.
Right.
Like if someone were to shout, "Look, they're naked." It don't matter who it is. Everybody's going to look. Everyone. It's like a car wreck, you know. You could be a car wreck northbound and a whole southbound's backed up because they're watching the car. They're looking at it.
It was a flat tire, man. Y'all stop for nothing.
Has nothing to do with the southbound, but that whole southbound's backed up for miles because they got to.
Now there's 3 accidents on the other side because of all the people stopping for a guy on a flat tire.
Yeah,
because it backed up.
A dog broke my leg. Now I got a rod and screw in my bones. Don't know what I would do without the miracles. Yep, smokable greenage. Man, fucking dogs, huh? I know a dog that ate its owner's toe off before, and the owner didn't know because it had like diabetes or something like that. Didn't have feeling. Like what? This whole that's weird. Talking about weird shit. That's weird. What's up, Kristen? So pain is no stranger. Yep. What the fuck? Yeah.
I'm no stranger to the pain. Oh
yeah. It was a family member, well, a distant family member of mine. They were sleeping or something, you know, maybe they had their sleeping pill and they passed out, but that dog just started eating its foot. Oh yeah.
Is this exciting?
You can sit there and watch it. That's cool.
So this is all I pushed it from the computer and everything, so it's all networked over. So this is the actual slicing program pushing it. Right now it's doing a bed check. So it hits the 25 points on the bed, checks it real quick. Now it's going back home and it'll start printing.
Oh shit, here we go. Bop. It did its first printing. Dude, it hurts to laugh.
You pulled something good then.
Yeah.
I hate it when I twist and just like, oh, I shouldn't have moved that way. And it's like, it almost feels like you tore something.
It really does. It really does. It's not fun, but we'll power through. It's okay. I won't die. We've been here before. Tried to stop him going full force. Was about to jump on a car. Yeah. Dude, F dogs. I love dogs, don't get me wrong, but F them. Cats, you can literally leave house for a week, come back, and there's nothing fucked up. As long as you've had that litter box clean before you leave and you feed and water it enough, there ain't nothing. Sometimes if I've left for a couple days and I left my faucet running a little bit, just a dribble, my cat drinks out of the faucet anyway, you know. But I love dogs. I love how dogs cuddle and all that, but I love how independent cats are. Cats are dicks. Sometimes. So are dogs, though. Dogs, they bark, they shit and piss everywhere. And they get hair everywhere. So do cats. Cats get hair everywhere. But I prefer no animals. I got pet humans to raise. Those little chitlins I own.
Cats are lazy. They're ornery. They think they own the place.
My damn nose itches like a mother. Okay, so I'm gonna hit this sponsor spot, and then guess what we're getting into? It's Terrible Tuesday, and today I don't necessarily have a terrible people or terrible events. I have evil punishments
Ooh,
designed to be worse than death.
that sounds pretty terrible.
Yep. And then we're going to do the butterfly bush. And it doesn't sound terrible, and it's not necessarily terrible, but it's a very invasive plant. So we'll get into it after these messages.
Brain Jerk is brought to you by Village Pizza Company. Using quality ingredients and homemade dough, their pizza is prepared with care. Their goal is to properly serve their community a simple yet delicious pizza with a smile. Go visit villagepizzamaybee.com for more information. Welcome to the friendliest place in town. Little Brown Jug was established in 1977, offering great food and excellent service, and continue to carry on this proud tradition to this day. To this day! Come and see why they call them the friendliest place in town. Visit littlebrownjugmaybe.com for more information. We'll see you there. Mugsy Sports Grill and Bar. Mugsy's is the best sports bar and restaurant in Monroe, Michigan. Mugsy serves up piping hot pizza, wings, ribs, burgers, and more. Mugsy's is the place in Monroe to go to for the big game or race on Sundays. Be sure to bring the whole family. Go check out MugsySportsBar.com for more information. Monroe Sport Center. We are a family-operated business that is here for customers' every demand. We have a fully stocked snack bar and also connected to one of the hottest bars in Monroe. Go check out BowlMSC.com for more information. Ruthless Pro Wrestling, RPW, is the rising independent professional wrestling promotion out of the Midwest. Featuring hard-hitting and high-flying action and a reputation in the high-stakes world of deathmatch wrestling from today's hottest talent. Go check out RuthlessPro.com for some more information.
So, it's an animated video, but it's going to be a good one. We're at the evil punishments designed to be worse than death. So we're not necessarily going to go through this whole video, but we're going to go through some things and we can talk about stuff. You know how it rolls.
Men at any point throughout history, although crossing the line could mean anything from murder to just annoying the king. However, in many places, the death penalty isn't the worst thing that the courts have to offer. Here are 15 of the evil punishments worse than death administered throughout history.
List.
Number 15, flaying. Let's turn the clock back to ancient Assyria, roughly 850 BCE. The ruler Ashur-nasir-pal II was known for his brutal treatment of captives and rebel leaders, but one method created a special dread for victims. Using a special set of knives, the torturers would slowly remove the unfortunate victim's skin, and this was something they practiced a lot. They not only knew how to remove the skin smoothly, but how to keep the victim alive for as long as possible. To ensure this, they'd start the cutting at the lower legs, thighs, and the buttocks, all areas without proximity to vital organs, making it more likely the victim would remain in agonizing pain for longer without bleeding out. This was a highly effective form of torture, and if the torturers wanted information, they were likely to get it quickly. A victim who gave their captives what they wanted could survive the beginning stages of flaying, but the risk of infection would be high. But for most, it was a prolonged and terrible execution. So how long could someone survive a flaying? The combination of blood loss, infections, shock from extreme pain, and hypothermia from exposure to the elements without the protection of your skin means most people could survive few days at the most after being flayed. The skilled Assyrian torturers knew how to remove the skin smoothly, often keeping it in one piece for it to be displayed as a horrible flag of warning. They were clearly proud of their skill, and torturers in many of their art pieces from the era. And while the Assyrians eventually passed into history, the method became less common but did not die out. It was a common method of torturing religious heretics in empires for more than 1,000 years. And while using it on a human today would be frowned upon, it's still a common skill for hunters who want to keep an animal's pelt intact for use. But that's nothing compared to what the Persians came up with. Number 14, the boats. Flaying usually kills people after a short period of intense torture, but other methods keep the pain going for a lot longer. When a soldier named Mithridates murdered the brother of the king wanted him to suffer. Sure, the king's brother had been attempting a coup, but it didn't matter. He ordered the soldier to be taken to the boats. This wasn't exile. It was something much worse. The condemned could be taken to a pair of boats, with one lying on top of the other. Holes would then be cut in the boat for the victim's head, hands, and feet. So he would be trapped inside. But then the real torture begins, and it starts with Dessert? The condemned man is force-fed a mixture of milk and honey, pumping him full of the sweet mixture until he's nearly to the point of nausea, and left in the sun with the sticky substance drying all over his face and body. And from there, nature takes its course. The sweet mixture starts attracting insects, who land on the man's body and begin sucking it off of him, creating a constant feeling of irritation. Joining the flies will be bees and wasps, which will be painfully stinging him. And inside the boat, the man's bloated body will release excrement, which will attract worms and other vermin. Inside the darkened boat, they'll start biting at his body and eventually burrowing in, leading him to die a slow, painful death from his body being consumed by vermin. This technique seems to have only been used in Persia, although it horrified the Greco-Roman historian Plutarch so much that he made a special mention of it in his biography of the sadist king who invented it. Was this just one madman's creation, or was this a common fate for criminals and traitors in Persia? The answer might be lost to history. It wasn't the only time animals were used to bring death. Number 13, Buena Culle. Roman law was one of the most advanced systems of law the world had ever seen at the time, and that also meant the judges could get a little more creative. When a judge had a suspect in front of him who had been convicted of killing his father, he decided he deserved more than just a simple execution, and there would have been some surprising supporting characters in the mix. First, the convict would have been severely whipped, and his head would have been covered in a sack, at which point he would have been sewn up into a large leather sack. But he wouldn't be the only one in the sack. He would be joined by a collection of live animals, none of them friendly. At which point the whole collection would be thrown into the water to drown, with the idea that the animals would savagely attack the unfortunate man in their panic as they all sank down to their watery deaths. No word on if the animals were convicted of anything. But what animals were chosen for this terrible ritual? This varies, but one thing that seems consistent is that they were all capable of causing pain. One common choice was a rooster, whose beak and talons were capable of dealing out a lot of damage quickly. Also common was a venomous snake, who's more likely to bite when panicked. Not even a man's best friend was safe. A wild dog was a common addition. The fourth varies, but several reports point to a monkey being included, which might seem like an odd choice unless you've been attacked by them and seen how quickly they bite and claw. One thing is for sure, this wasn't a role any of them were auditioning for. While this was mostly a Roman invention, it's reported that it was revived to a certain extent in medieval Germany. There, only a cat and a dog were used, and they fought like, well, you know. Unlike other forms of execution, this one wasn't about prolonging the torture of the victim. It was simply about making those last few minutes before drowning as horrible as possible. But no Roman execution method was more infamous than this one. Number 12, crucifixion. It's one of the most famous images in religious history, the Christian Messiah Jesus being nailed to a cross for angering the Roman authorities. But while it's mostly associated with religious martyrdom now, it was a common Roman execution method. So common that religious texts refer to thieves and other criminals sentenced for hanging alongside Jesus. And whether you were a rebel rabbi or a common thief, there were few worse ways to die. It served not just as a slow death, but as a warning to others. The crosses were placed in a public square, and the condemned were frequently jeered and tormented by onlookers as they died a slow death. But unlike many of the other methods in the list, crucifixion didn't deal a fatal injury. It just set them up to die from other factors like blood loss and asphyxiation. And the torture started early. The ritual would start with the condemned being forced to bear the heavy wooden cross on their back, often while being whipped. After the cross was placed, they would be nailed to it through their wrists and hung from it. Sometimes the feet would be nailed as well, although evidence isn't consistent. With their arms splayed out to the side, they would be left to hang for anywhere from hours to days. Because their whole body weight was held by their arms, the typical cause of death would be trouble breathing due to the pressure on the lungs. However, elements like heart failure, dehydration, or infection from the wounds inflicted by the crucifixion and whippings can also spell the end of the convict. However long they lasted, it would be an agonizing end. But because this execution method isn't immediately fatal and due to its religious association, today a small group of zealots chose to have themselves temporarily crucified as a penance ritual. At least it's ancient history as a punishment, right? Not quite. It was used in places like Japan and Burma as late as the 1800s, with some isolated reports of it being used to torture prisoners of war during World War II. It wasn't the only method that stood the test of time. Number 11, immurement. Sometimes the most horrible thing to do to someone is to do nothing. One of the most ancient methods of torture was to take a convict and wall them in alive somewhere and then just walk away. Out of sight, out of mind for those dealing out the punishment. But for the condemned, they're left alone, in the dark, with nothing but their mind to keep them company as they slowly die a painful death due to either dehydration or asphyxiation, depending on how much air there is in the confined space. If the condemned is buried alive in a coffin, as has happened accidentally to people wrongly declared dead, they'll likely be dead within hours from a lack of air. But if they're kept in a larger space, it's likely to be fairly longer and more painful. While this was commonly used as a method of execution, it has also been used for human sacrifice. But one case was more famous than any other. The Vestal Virgins of Rome took a sacred oath to become priestesses dedicated to the goddess Vesta. They had two main duties: to maintain the sacred fire and to maintain a vow of chastity and celibacy. If they broke the latter, punishment. They would first be stripped of all their honors and ritually scourged. Their fellow virgins would dress them like a corpse, hold a mock funeral for them, and carry them to a small underground vault. There, they would be left in what looked like a small room, oddly containing a couch, lamp, and even some food. And an area where the vault was built would be filled up with dirt and buried. The horrible ritual was conducted around 10 times over the 1,000 years that the Vestal Virgins existed. This continued as a form of punishment for thousands of years, but how severe it was depended on the circumstances. The murderous Hungarian Countess Elizabeth Bathory was immured within her own castle, but she was supplied with food and lived for 4 years in her palace tomb. Now let's get
in her own castle.
Called the Dark Ages for a reason. Number 12, the breaking wheel. Europe loved its public executions, with everyone from murderers to heretics to common thieves facing their turn at some point. But for those deemed truly loathsome, a worse fate than the gallows awaited them. No one knows when the breaking wheel was first created, but the first references to the torture device can be found in literature from the 6th century. The condemned would be taken to a public stage and tied to the floor, at which point the giant spoked wheel would be rolled in. The goal of this first stage of the execution was to exact extreme pain, starting with breaking the legs of the convict by dropping the wheel on their shins. Sometimes this would be followed up by killing the inmate by dropping the wheel on their neck, but this wasn't common because the public demanded more blood than that. In most cases, the poor convict was lifted up once their limbs had been broken and bound to the wheel in agonizing pain. Their broken limbs often let the authorities snake their arms and legs through the holes. The breaking wheel was then raised on a pole, and the inmate was either left to die, beheaded, or lit on fire. The body was often left up for display on the wheel as scavengers had their way, making this resemble crucifixion in many ways. However, there was always a way out. If the convict fell off the wheel while still alive or survived the execution, they were deemed to be spared by God. Their injuries were treated, they were typically pardoned of their crimes, and were in a rare position of being one of the only people to survive one of the worst punishments in human history. The worst punishment often lasted a long time, but few were as disturbing as this one. Number 9, impalement. How disturbing does a punishment have to be for the man who inspired Dracula to go, yeah, I like it, and make it my signature? Despite the association with the infamous Vlad Tepes, the Romanian leader didn't create the punishment of impalement. It had been used since ancient Mesopotamia as a way to punish particularly hated criminals. It was a simple method, but almost unspeakably brutal. A large sharpened stake is taken and inserted up the backside of the unfortunate convict and pushed.
Backside, he said. Yeah. Take it easy, backside. Think about it.
Just the stake was then raised and planted in the ground, with the victim still attached to it. In the most brutal cases, fields of victims were planted as a grim warning to anyone thinking of invading the territory. At least it'd be a swift death, though, right? Maybe, maybe not. Poorly trained users would no doubt pierce the internal organs and lead to the person bleeding out in agonizing pain over a few hours.
Slow unless it was removed.
Users figured out how to thread the snake effectively and follow the spine. This caused minimal damage and allowed the person to linger for days, with the record reportedly being 8 days. Wait, did you just say more modern users? Yep, this horrible tactic did not die with Vlad the Impaler. It was used extensively by the Ottoman Empire, most infamously during the Armenian genocide that began in 1915. There are also reports that it was used by the Dutch rulers of the East Indies during the colonial era. Vlad, no doubt, would be proud. This next technique might be the most infamous execution method of the Middle Ages. Number 8, the rack. Most of the punishments on this list are execution methods that get a little too ambitious with prolonging death. But punishment isn't the only goal of torture. Sometimes the torturers need some information, and the old guard was willing to get a lot more brutal than slapping people with a phone book. Enter the rack, a simple device that looks like an old-fashioned washboard. This device wasn't used to clean clothes. It was used to create pain. The wooden frame featured a roller at both ends. The victim's hands were tied to the top end, while their legs were attached to the bottom end. As the interrogation advanced, the torturers slowly rolled the rack, extending the victim's arms and legs until they could give no more. And it only gets worse from there. Unlike the other methods, the rack doesn't deliver immediate fatal injury. Rather, it deals out slow-level pain that gets worse and worse as the ligaments, cartilage, and bones of the arms and legs are stretched beyond what they can handle. This can quickly break a person down, as their shoulders and hips separate and their limbs are ruined. Even if one was able to escape the rack, it's unlikely they could walk after it did its work. This also kept the person immobile for future torture, such as using hot coals to burn them. The rack was so feared that sadistic interrogators would often use the rack on one person and force another to watch to try to break both of them down. The use of this device mostly died out in the 1600s, but it was reportedly revived in 18th century Russia. But it wasn't the most common method of torture in the Middle Ages. Number 7. Auto de fe. The Spanish Inquisition was one of the most infamous affairs of religious persecution in the world, as the particularly brutal authorities built on the Roman Catholic Church's enforcement of laws. Opposing religion was largely banned. Converts were surveilled and interrogated to ensure
they always got to put the chicks in the target stretchers and shit,
heresy
right?
subjected to extreme torture under the authority of the infamous Takamata. And for those who
Easier to break.
a worse fate awaited them. They would be subjected to a ritual of public penance where they would be paraded before the public and abused, wearing garments bearing their accused crimes. Then the authorities would proclaim their guilt or innocence. For some, it would be innocence, as they would collapse in gratitude and relief. But for most, it would be guilty, and horrors awaited them. The punishment would typically begin with public whipping and torture, but it would only end one way. The convicted would be tied to a stake, kindling would be piled under them, and they would be lit afire and burned to death while still alive. It was a horrifying way to die, but the only grace of mercy was that many passed out from the intense smoke before they burned to death. This execution technique is typically associated with witch burnings, but most of those killed by burning over the centuries, from the 15th to the 19th, were either religious minorities or critics of the dogma and tactics of the Inquisition, and it stayed in Europe. Despite persistent rumors, no witches, accused or otherwise, were ever burned in Salem. Not all these punishments are famous, but this next one is no less disgusting. Number 6. Schwedentrunk. The Swedish drink. Sounds delicious. Maybe like a lingonberry soda. But for those who were being invaded by Swedish troops during the 30 Years' War in the 1600s, it was no laughing matter. This wasn't so much a traditional punishment as a method of torture and robbery used by ruthless soldiers, many of whom were out of supplies and intended to take them from the locals by any means necessary. It's a simple technique. Force your captives to drink as much as they possibly can, until they give you what you want. If you've ever tried to drink a whole gallon of water as a part of a dare, you know this can get very unpleasant, very quickly, because your stomach can only handle so much. But this wasn't just drinking water. The Swedish troops would tie the person up and use a funnel to pour the liquid into the person's mouth, and the actual substance would be an unpleasant surprise. Sometimes it would be water, sometimes it would be boiling water, causing terrible internal burns. Sometimes it would just be disgusting, like urine or sewage. In addition to the possible poisoning or infection, this could cause the person's stomach to stretch or burst from the massive amount of liquid. For the soldiers who wanted to add a little additional pain, they would then beat the victim's swollen stomach and even stab them with spears. It's no wonder that most of the victims in the path of this torture learned to just give the soldiers what they wanted and pray that that would satisfy them. Now let's head across the pond for something that isn't as funny as it sounds. Number 5. Tarring and feathering. It almost sounds like a cartoon gag. The unfortunate convict gets a bucket of tar, and now they're all sticky. And here come the feathers. They look like a giant chicken. But this isn't slapstick comedy. It's a feared fate for those who angered the mob in 18th century America. The tradition might have started much earlier. It was first referenced in an order by Richard I in 1189, but it didn't catch on until tensions started rising in the British colonies in North America. Angry rebels in the years before the Revolution would protest tax laws by kidnapping British officials or suspected informers, coating them in pitch tar and covering them with feathers to publicly humiliate them. It was considered a grave insult and good sport for the rebels. But the truth was actually much worse. How do you get the tar nice and sticky? You heat it up. While this wasn't often the case, often tar poured on the victims was boiling hot. And when it dried and came off, it would take pieces of burned skin with it. There's no report of anyone dying from being tarred and feathered. Many of the victims were left in agonizing pain and had permanent burn scars. The punishment became rarer after the Revolution, but it was hard to keep good torture down. The Mormon founder Joseph Smith was tarred and feathered by anti-Mormon radicals in 1832, and a German-American farmer named John Meintz was subject to the punishment in 1912. His crime? Not supporting war bond sales during World War I, and likely just being a German-American during wartime. This next one might be a bit of a catch-22. Number 4. Trial by ordeal. You've been accused of a horrible crime, and the penalty is death. The good news is you can get out of it. You just have to do what? Trial by ordeal goes back to antiquity, when the most common form was trial by combat. This one was actually rather fair. You just go into the arena, fight a guy, and if you come out alive, you're free. Want to prove you're innocent of murder? Just commit this other murder. This would fall out of favor eventually, but Helena persisted in the duels that became common in the West.
We need somebody really killed.
Against
Not as innocent dude you did.
resemble torture, such as the accused being sentenced to trial by fire. In this one, the accused would simply have to walk barefoot over a field of hot coals or hold a red-hot iron. Sometimes the person simply had to accomplish the painful task, but more often they would be checked for signs of injury and only deemed to be innocent if they somehow managed to escape without getting burned. The odds aren't looking great here, but one twist on the trial by ordeal was particularly sadistic. When witches were accused and placed on trial, they often proclaimed their innocence. But how do you prove something that probably doesn't exist? Those who trialed the apparent witches had an idea. The accused witch would be tied up and submerged in water to drown. The idea was that the witch would be able to use supernatural powers to escape. So if she managed to escape, she was clearly a witch and would be put to death. So how would someone prove their innocence? Simple. Die. If the accused witch drowned, they were clearly innocent and would go to heaven. Even when the accused wins, they lose. The next punishment has some accessories. Number 3, rat torture. How do you turn rats into man-eaters? The first reports come from Roman Catholic writers alleging torture in the Tower of London during the Elizabethan era. They claimed that as the tide rose and the River Thames rolled in, rats would climb into the prisoner's cell and viciously attack him. Some doubt this happened since rats typically don't attack humans unprovoked, but the reports might have encouraged some people because in the 16th century during the Dutch Revolt, someone did manage to weaponize the furry plague vectors. A pottery bowl filled with rats would be placed upside down on a prisoner's body, and hot coals would be placed on top of it. As the bowl heated up, the panicked rats would desperately gnaw at the prisoner's flesh to try to find refuge from the heat. Someone called PETA. It's grotesque, and it worked. Rat torture isn't a particularly common form of torture simply because it depended on living animals doing what you need them to do, but the fear that rats create made it an appealing option for particularly cruel dictators, and it made an appearance in military dictatorships in South America during the 20th century. Argentina in particular was infamous for using a retroscope to insert live rats into people and letting the creatures dig their way out. It's mostly a horrifying fact. Although in 2010, a man threatened his kidnapped victim with rats to get him to grant his wife a divorce. This next torture is especially horrible because the victim does it to themselves. Number 2, yubitsume. Japan's criminal scene is powerful and secretive, and agents that fall short of a task assigned by their boss often face severe punishment. But unlike the American gangsters who might find themselves wearing cement shoes, members of the Yakuza often face another penance, less deadly but bloodier. In order to atone for their offenses, they must sacrifice a piece of themselves, particularly a piece of their little finger. This is not only extremely painful, but is considered to weaken them because the little finger is key to maintaining the grip on the hilt of a sword. But that hasn't stopped it from being used for hundreds of years. The penitent Yakuza member begins by laying their hand on top of a clean cloth. They then use a particularly sharp knife, called a tanto, and slice off their little finger just above the top knuckle. They then wrap up the fingertip in a package and present it as an offering to the head of the crime syndicate. Why would they want it? Tradition, because not only was this ritual used as a method of penance, but in the past it was used as a form of payment by gamblers who fell behind on their debts. The good news is, if the agent screws up again, they can do the ritual again. The bad news is, they're gonna run out of fingers eventually. Finally, sometimes there's nothing more terrifying than nothing. Number 1, white torture. Solitary confinement is torture in itself, stripping someone of all their comforts and isolating them from any human contact. But usually, they at least have a sense of space that they can use to orient themselves. White torture strips them of even that by placing them in a cell of nothingness. The prisoner is deprived of color, giving them a cell where the walls, floor, and ceiling are entirely white. Not only that, their clothing is also white, and any food given to them, usually plain rice or porridge, is white as well. Taking this to the extreme, the cell is equipped with bright neon tubes that prevent any shadows from falling on the cell. And the soundproof cell leaves them with nothing but their own mind. And that mind slowly starts going insane. An extreme form of sensory deprivation, this was reportedly used extensively in Iran against political dissidents, who could be held for months or even years in one of these cells. It also showed up in Venezuela, and international human rights groups even accused the United States of using it on accused terrorists in Guantanamo Bay, using goggles and earmuffs to block out their senses. But in all these cases, the facilities are tightly guarded, meaning all anyone has to go on is the reports of the victims, and those are harrowing, with many claiming the extreme sleep deprivation left them unable to sleep even after they were freed, and haunted them for years afterward. What about the children? Watch weird punishments of children through history. If you want to know more about these horrible punishments, check out our Worst Punishments in History playlist.
That was a bunch of shit.
That's crazy stuff, dude.
What was the worst one you think, Night Train?
I don't know, that one of the boating, I would think.
The boat one?
Dude, have you ever been out in the woods and you were just hot and sweaty and you were out there because you were camping or this or that, and like the bugs just start coming on you? Dude, that would be crazy, dude. You wouldn't be able to.
Say hello.
You just lay there and they just keep coming and coming.
The one for me was when they'd put the mouse or the rat up in you.
Yeah.
Burrow out.
Gerbil, eat its way out.
What?
How long ago? Does a rat not have to breathe or something?
Oh, a rat can breathe as long as it's burrowing. A rat.
It was a rat inside your
for
body.
like 5 minutes.
Yeah, they would put a rat inside your body so it could eat its way out.
Yeah, you have to think though, if they can rats can crawl through fucking sewers and shit, right? So
Well, that's what I'm saying. How
kind
long
of
can they go
live
without
through
oxygen?
yeah, go through the human body and ugh. That's always my theory about a bug, right? That it would just a worm or snake or anything kind of what if it could just crawl through and just wiggle around and crawl back out?
Well, worms do. You have worms inside of you right now.
Rory said we're gonna make her barf.
Well, you better plug your ears.
Right before this, she was talking about her acting career.
Oh.
I'm great. I'm sassy. I'm great.
What up,
I'm rude. I'm disrespectful.
She's
sassy.
rude. She's disrespectful, and she would get big.
On the top of my lungs.
You're fired.
Great character.
You're fired.
That's sassy and disrespectful.
That sounds like my progress reports in elementary.
Sassy and disrespectful.
Being disrespectful, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Disrespectful.
Every time those parent-teacher conferences came, I got beat.
I got in trouble too.
Your acting profile, you just hand in your student report.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah, I was always in trouble too whenever those came around. I never got beat for it, but I was I had to write sentences. I got it easy. But
yeah,
I'll tell you
80s
what,
kids got beat.
those sentences suck.
80s kids got beat. We got flowers.
I would, dude, Eli, if you give my son the choice to do anything, whether it's push-ups or writing or getting spanked, he's gonna pick getting spanked every time.
Man,
so
he can be strong as fuck.
I quit putting that on the table as an option a long time ago.
Hell yeah.
Right? It's easier to deal with the punishment than have to do something.
Yep, he knows that already. And it's not like I go around spanking these kids. I've literally spanked Eli maybe twice in his whole life.
Kids don't even get beat no more, man.
Part of that is, before I started giving him the option, and then I gave him the option, and I was like, what? Well, now I have to spank him, damn it. Every other kid,
yeah, right.
I'll
Because
do whatever I got to do to not get spanked.
The punishment would be, hey, you know what? Trick question. I was tricking you. It's a punishment. So whichever one you chose, that's the one you don't get. Punishment.
Reverse psychology there, ass.
Oh,
the
man.
next time when he picks that, I
the
go,
one you want? Oh, well, you're not getting that. You're not going to get that. You enjoy that one too much, so we'll give you something else. We'll give you the one you don't want.
Yeah, let me hit this sponsor spot real quick, and then we'll get into this butterfly bush.
Brain Jerk is brought to you by the Monroe Pop Fest is a locally owned and promoted convention that celebrates everything pop culture has to offer. The Monroe Pop Fest brings in several national comic book and media guests each year, as well as deliver 100+ vending and artist alley booths to shop from. The Monroe Pop Fest, September 16th and 17th at the Monroe County Expo Center. For more information, go check out monroepopfest.com. Amaya's Fresh Mexican Grill is committed to bringing the traditional flavors and taste of the Southwest and certain regions of Mexico to your hometown. Go check them out at amayasmexicangrill.com. IWR, welcome to the home of Insane Wrestling Revolution. the hottest wrestling promotion out of the Midwest, ran by former WWE and current Impact Wrestling superstar Rhino and the Monroe Pop Fest Gary Paulette. Go follow them on Facebook at Insane Wrestling Revolution and join the revolution.
This is the Earth Dweller of the Day. Earth Dweller of the Day.
This is the Earth Dweller of the Day.
See what's walking on this earth. Okay. What is the Earth Dweller of the Day?
Dude, you
This
just
is the
seen
Earth Dweller
I got
of
some weed in the
the
back
Day.
of my bag out from my bag.
Of the Day.
This is the Earth.
Oh shit!
There you go.
I don't know what. Usually, I click that loop button every fucking day, and you would think that it just would stay off.
It's got to be in your settings.
Yeah, it must. It must. So
This
today
shit stinks.
talking about the butterfly bush, which usually we do a plant that's poisonous and stuff like that. This one's not necessarily poisonous. It's a very invasive plant, but it's good for butterflies.
Can't stress enough how fantastic these are as a nectar source. And why stop at one? Why not have 2, 3, 4, or even 5? Because they are so invaluable as a nectar source to our British butterflies. Now, there's many species available out there. If you go into any garden centre, they have a whole range from white through to pink, purple, yellow even. There's lilac, you can see to my right. And really, most of them will attract butterflies to a good extent into your garden. But the best one you can find is this lilac-y coloured one, part of the woody eye species. So if you can get hold of one of those, they really are fantastic. And they're often what we call the man has no intervention for a few years, and you can see them growing.
Beans.
Oh yeah.
We've even seen them
Fresh
growing
beans.
chimney pots. They are really astounding as to the areas and the small crevices that these plants will find or even successfully growing. So, a fantastic pioneer species.
Oh, good, man.
See, this one to my right is an absolute hive of activity this morning. I mean, just within 20 minutes, an hour of watching this buddleia, there's been small tortoise shells, peacocks, red admirals, green vein white, large white, small white. I've even had a summer visiting brimstone, which I think has just emerged. So it's fantastic to see. And it doesn't stop there. The range goes on to red and browns. I mean, we've even seen silver-wash fritillaries in some woodland gardens.
If you like butterflies, get them on in your garden.
No, them little bugs all over that damn thing.
Plant in the garden.
Keep that away from my fucking weed. That's too many damn bugs to watch out for.
What's funny about this plant is I looked up terrible plants, and this was number 1 on the list for being invasive. And I looked up, it was like one plant's not the plant in your garden. But then I look it up on YouTube and I see plants to plant in your garden. This is one of the greatest plants to plant in your garden.
So don't plant these or do?
I guess it just depends on what you want. So
yeah, if you want butterflies, they're good. You know what I mean?
They're very invasive. So if you had that's why they're terrible, is because they just take over everything. Mm-hmm. If you're willing to manicure and keep your shit up and want butterflies in your shit, do it. But there's another plant.
These things get infested with bees, though, too, I feel like.
Yep, I agree. It would bring tons of bees in.
Because remember, like last week when I got on and I was like outside gardening and shit. They have like 2 giant ones of these.
Yep.
And there were
lots of people.
many bees in them.
Yeah, lots of people have them. They're companion plants.
They're nice. You said, I saw some beautiful butterflies, caterpillars, tons of different insects and wildlife out there. But I was like, and it's pretty, but I was like, fuck that. Because I was trying to trim and do stuff. And there was like way too many bees. Like,
bees won't hurt you unless they feel threatened.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely felt threatened because there was like
regular bees and then like the bumblebees, which I know the bumblebees don't really sting, but then they were all going at each other. And when I say they were like fucking swarms of them around these plants specifically, these flowers. I kept trying to get in there and I was like, fuck that. I'm not Thomas J-ing it out here.
Bees love a fresh water source.
Yeah. I have a million bees in my backyard. I love it. I've never been stung yet. I don't know why though. I always get stung like when I was a kid and shit. I've been stung a million times by bees, but not now.
Stung you as a kid.
Yeah, you know what? Yellow jackets, though, dude. I got stung by a yellow jacket once. I thought somebody stabbed me, dude. I was like, "What the fuck?"
Trying to get there we go. This is what I want to see. Look at that.
Yep. Those are actually everywhere here. I
would love to have these in my garden.
I could walk right there and pick one and bring it back over here for you. They're everywhere.
It'd be good to like plant a bush out in the front yard or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and in 4 years,
not so much for your vegetables with all the bugs and everything, I would think, but
that'd be attracting them too. So usually when bugs fly into you or whatever, it's because they're looking for a food source. Well, you've given them their food source now.
Look at that beautiful butterfly.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, damn, look at that butterfly.
Funny story about some bugs. 2 days ago, we were at football practice, and a swarm of flies. The whole time we were at practice, we just got swarmed by little tiny flies, and then there were a couple fat ones. They looked almost like ants.
Oh yeah. That was out just the other day, dude. I have a video of them coming out of my fucking dude. You should see this. There was hundreds of thousands came out of my grass. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Millions.
Yeah.
Millions.
It was insane. They look like carpenter ants or something, like termites with fucking wings.
Yep. Some of them, and then a big one landed on me, and it had like 4 little ones on it.
Holy shit!
But there was millions of them, dude. There was millions of them. I'm talking. We don't have a 20-minute practice. We have 3-4 hour practice, and they were there the whole time.
Yep.
It would not go away.
And then you get like huge swarm, and then it'd die off a little bit, and there'd only be a couple. But then you'd look in the sky, and you could just see them moving.
Yeah.
And then they'd hit you again. It was wild. I was like, what? Earlier before the swarm came, I had snatched a fly out the air that was buzzing around Josh's face. I snatched it out of the air. The next day, he's like, dude, make sure you don't kill any flies today.
You're like, next time I will let it land on your face.
Yeah, well, he was. I go, dude, you got a fly running. He goes, I know, it keeps bothering me. So I just reached out and snatched it out of the air one try. And
hell yeah,
damn, that was nice. And then 10 minutes later, here comes the whole swarm.
You put out pheromones, dude.
Yeah.
A lot of times too up here in Michigan.
He was letting you know.
Yeah, up north here, it fucking there's bugs that carry other bugs. It's so weird. There's this one, it's a beetle, and it was weird because I saw it on TikTok a couple times. I saw a couple people talking about it, and then bam, I found this thing in my fucking yard. Humongous fucking beetle, and on the back of it is like a parasite tick. And there was fucking hundreds of them, dude, all up under the scales of this thing, up under when it flapped his wings. I was like, oh my God. I got a video of it, dude. And like,
too, that type of stuff, like parasites, and they're not ticks, but they're tick-like things. They burrow in the shrimps.
Yeah.
And that's why they tell you to be careful about eating shrimp and crustaceans and stuff like that, because they you would never know it unless you knew it.
Yeah, some of these bugs can land on you, and those parasites they're carrying could drop on you. I was like, I always feel like I have a bug crawling on me, dude. Seriously, I live up north, bro. It's like, chiggers are a thing, and I didn't even think they were real.
They're real.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck chiggers, bro.
Arkansas's got them like crazy.
Dude, when you feel shit crawling on your balls, you're gonna be like, ah, and you're gonna look, and they're gonna be these almost invisible little microscopic bugs. They're called
You had to worry
chiggers.
about chiggers more than you had to worry about fucking ticks down in Arkansas.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
dude!
I've had a tick fall from the sky and land on my arm.
Oh yeah, that's where they do. They fall out of the trees, bro.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Or
if,
the
like
wind
you might
carries
say,
them.
there's no trees, they'll blow.
Yeah, the wind.
Yep.
Yeah, the wind blows
They'll
them.
blow out of the
Oh,
trees and be all up
listen.
on the grass and everything.
Yep, that's
They'll
how.
get into your socks before you even know it, man. They'll be all the way down to your skin, like under
Yeah.
your socks and legs.
The ones that are in the grass, they go to the tippy tops of the grass blades and they stand there like this with their jagged. They have jaggeds all down their arms. And you can watch microscopic videos. That thing that they jab into you, bro. If you can supersize that, make that into your fucking spear, that will fuck shit up.
Right.
I mean, dude, ticks are nasty little buggers, dude. And they're everywhere. Still, in August, there's still ticks up here.
I don't go walking through the fucking overgrowth either, though. You want to know why? And not because of ticks, because that's where snakes and cats like to hang out. Cats, if there's cougars or something around, which there are.
They're
I thought you cougar hunted.
Dude, I love to cougar hunt, but
I used to cougar hunt.
those wild cougars, they'll kill you.
Yeah. I wouldn't, like, if you would talk about cougars, I'd be like, there's no cougars around here, dude. They killed them all. Now, I fucking saw one, bro, right there. I was 6 feet away from this thing on my hands and knees, screaming like a girl, trying to get out of there as fast as I could. Holy shit.
There's stories of a cougar like 10 years ago being around Monroe County and nobody believed it. And then recently there's been cougars spotted in like Flat Rock and stuff like that, which is literally 15 minutes from here. You know, so
yeah,
those fuckers
Yeah,
are around here, and everybody needs to be careful because you'll be dead before you even know that it's next to you.
Yeah, they go for they're ambush predators, and they wait for you to walk past them.
Yep.
And they jump at you, they grab your face with their fucking 2-inch claws and sink their fucking 4-inch insides their fucking canine or whatever those things are into the back of your neck, dude.
Yep.
Fuck you with all that. Fuck you. Nope. I'm scared. Sorry. I don't give a fuck. I'm scared of that shit.
That's
scared to
exactly.
death.
That's why I would want one as a pet.
Oh, I'd have declawed, man.
No,
That's wrong though.
No, if
That's
I
wrong.
was like, I could find a baby or two out in the wild, I'd raise it up, you know, and I'd walk the wild with it. And if anybody tried to hurt me, my cats would protect the fuck out of me.
Fuck yeah. I almost had a baby bobcat last year.
Oh,
there was a baby walking. It was, low crawling. 'Cause there's right over here, right behind us, where they're in the city. Like right here is the city limit. So I'm in the country still. It's cool. I can shoot right here, right there. They can't. So me and my neighbor, we kept hearing this dude blasting off. And we're like, hey man, that's like our backyard. Like there's no one supposed to be shooting right there, dude. Like what the fuck? There's all these houses, a church. And then I was thinking, I was like, I bet you there's the bobcat or coyotes or something over there. 'Cause dude kept shooting. And then, like later on that day, it was pouring down fucking rain. And then I seen this fucking dude. I'm telling you, it was a baby bobcat, and it was like low crawling across the fucking street, and it was following the deer path, dude. And it went down and went in. I tried to go find it. It disappeared into the, how cats do, into the trees right here. Oh God, I wanted to find it so bad. But then, right, this was after the bobcat. So the population of animals started rising up around here. But then deer disappeared, bro. The rabbits disappeared. All small game and the deer were gone from this place for about a year. The deer just came back this year. I'm like, oh, that bobcat must have moved on. Them little fuckers are badass, dude.
Bobcats and Wolverines. Wolverine, I just found out the other day when we did that. Dude, I want a Wolverine as a pet.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
You keep anything from a baby and get it to love you, dude, it'll be a normal fucking thing, you know? I believe that. Well, sure. There's some things like I would never trust a lion.
Well, I'd trust a lion over a snake.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying anything that literally can put my head in its mouth. Yeah.
Well,
Let me have
listen,
some smaller.
as long as you for real show it love and keep it fed.
Yeah.
There should be zero problems with most animals.
Yeah, there should be. I really wanted that bobcat. Attila would never let me keep it, but
Problem that happens with these lion people like Joe Exotic and shit like that is they don't feed them properly. They don't give them their proper exercise, none of that stuff. So
yeah,
they're
they
like,
eat like
I'm hungry, you cocksucker. What?
Yeah, they eat like what, 400 pounds of meat a week or something like that.
Yeah, and Joe Exotic was over there feeding them leftover hot dogs and stuff like that. Like, come on.
That's terrible. That's terrible for a gut, dude. I mean, I mean, we eat hot dogs, but it's like when you feed your dog hot dogs, like I do sometimes, you know, like all the time. But it's like they have terrible guts from it, like just like a human. That's all processed bullshit. Like
he's always gassy. Always kicking you out the house, though, too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that was eggs, bro. He barely ever farts anymore. Bless you. That he had the evil win when we fed him eggs, and I stopped doing that. I was like,
eggshells are good for dogs.
Yeah, yeah. We used to do all kinds of different things,
God
but
says, hell no. What if there's a food shortage? Well, my animals will go hunt for me. And simple. That way, I could do with a falcon. Maybe
yeah, right. Falcon, we train that shit, dude.
Falcons only
Give
get
me some fish. We're eating good tonight. Here, I'll give you some too.
I just take a pillow with me. I'd have to fight him for food, though.
Who just wants the fillets? You get all the other stuff.
Attila finds roadkill and fucking chomps it up. I'm like, nah, spit that out. Fucking eats roadkill all the time.
I hate that. My dog used to do that.
He searches all the blood and guts. Every time you find a grease spot on the road, he searches it. Oh, where's that? Oh, man. He's psychotic. He's psychotic, bro.
Let me hit the sponsor spot, and then we'll say our goodbyes.
Hell yeah.
Brain Jerk is brought to you by 8 Mile Vodka, premium vodka, official sponsor of the Detroit Pistons and Brain Jerk Entertainment Company. 2021 SIP Award gold medalist. Born in Detroit. Go visit 8milevodka.com for more information. Crazy Squirrel Graphics. He's a freelance graphic designer that can make posters, flyers, and other graphic designs for events, parties, mugs, t-shirts, and anything else you need. Official graphic designer for the IWR and the Monroe Pop Fest. Go check out Crazy Squirrel Graphics on Facebook. Pro Wrestling Edge. 5 wrestling fans, Dan O'Mac, Brokowski, Nick DeGooch, Big Kaz, and Jaybird talk about wrestling and more. These guys bring a different edge to pro wrestling. Go check out the new beginnings at ProWrestlingEdge.com. We Handle Candles is a local business dedicated to making your home or your business smell outstanding, offering great scents and even better moments. We Handle Candles. Visit them on Facebook or Instagram.
Boom.
Hell yeah.
Thank you to everybody's sponsors.
Look the
You guys
camera.
got any plans for the day?
Relax. You get to relax today. No PT. The rest of the week, I got either physical therapy or doctor's appointments or dentist appointments or whatever. So I'm chilling today.
That's cool.
That print's only at 11%. It's supposed to be like about a 7-hour print. So it'll be sitting here for a while, dude. Just sitting there.
What are you printing? That's cool as fuck. I wish I would have bought a 3D printer.
GoPro mount for a drone.
Oh, cool. Nice. That's one thing. I should get my drone up too before the season's over.
Yesterday, I printed the ducks and some camera mounts and stuff like that. So this will mount onto the drone, and then the GoPro will mount. This will actually mount like this on the drone. Have a standoff that goes through here. It'll mount this way, and then there'll be the regular camera that comes off the front, and then the GoPro will mount up here.
Wow.
So there's two of them. So kind of GoPro mount up on that.
That's cool, pal. How strong is that polymer?
This is
The
TPU
filament.
here. This is flexible, so it bends, but yeah, it takes some crashes.
But like,
I've ripped a few, but yeah, it takes quite a bit of abuse.
the filaments, you can get real strong shit or what?
I
Like
can
hard.
get ABS or PETG or all kinds of different heat temperament and all that kind of stuff.
That's cool. I wish I would have bought one. I want to get one so bad.
They're
So I
only
would have these
$200 to get a printer going these days.
Yeah.
This one here is all pied up and everything else, though.
So-
it's probably like having like two printers in one as far as cost.
Could you build action figures?
Yeah. They've got all kinds of articulating stuff where there's snakes and the Rubik's little tic-tac-toe board that I did. So it's articulating, it'll move or whatever.
Like
all kinds of different shit.
G.I. Joe-esque, or even, you know, how those wrestlers, the wrestling action figures.
Yeah.
Bro,
Dude, it literally, I've seen these things build retarded things. I'm like, how the fuck is that doing that? Like all inside, outside, all you do is snap all the bullshit out and it will be like swivels and connects all back together. You ever see the ones that are like boxes and shit and they all fold apart? Oh, dude, it's weird. Shit's amazing. Computers are way smarter than us, is what it is. Look at that.
They're all clips. So these are like the wire covers and whatnot to put on the printer. And then you get covers for them or battery covers so to protect the battery on the drone. So LEDs. These are ducks that I printed for one.
Yep.
So that you can make it a whoop. Little different things. Motor holders. But I mean,
you love the drones, huh?
Oh, dude, I've been doing drones before I was printing. That's what got me into printing.
Yes, like 37 drones, bro.
No shit. Gotta go learn more about Night Train. That wasn't in my dream. We didn't play with drones.
Yeah, that whole wall right there. There's like 15, 20 of them on the wall. And
Night Train will land a drone right in your fucking hand.
Yeah. I love drones. I fuck around with mine just a little bit. I've crashed it a couple times because of Attila tried to eat it. But oh, that's wild, dude.
All the green on there. There's camera mounts.
I always talked about weed delivery service with drones.
Holders, end pieces. Yeah.
You gotta be careful over here. There's a base right there. Like I'm always flying in their airspace, bro. They fly right above my fucking head. Like if I could throw far enough, I swear to God, I could hit these fucking planes. They're right above my head.
This one's just about as big as my hand.
That is so cool. I love those. I love the super. Do you do the super fast ones?
Yeah, this one will do about 70.
And you know how to go choo, 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 in and out of fucking houses and shit.
He does. He's got one that goes. He's got little ones that he can fly in the house and everything.
You ever see those people race them?
The real good ones that you know that you would do for videography.
Yeah.
Photography, whatever you want to
Yeah,
call
that's
it.
This is the one that I'm working on right now.
Discovery photography.
So it's got the big ducks on it. So I'm slamming it. So I'm making it so it's thinner, smaller, lighter weight. So it won't be as tall this way. It's going to go down to like 20 millimeters tall. So I'm printing all the different parts, like the GoPro mount. All that
That's
kind
cool.
of stuff to go onto it now. That's what that's all. There's the new ducks that are going to go onto it, half the size. Makes it a little bit more aerodynamic. Doesn't catch the wind as much, but yeah.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, I originally got mine so I could take it places where I couldn't get to. Like I wanted to go, discover cliffs and shit.
Well, that's what the DJIs are for, man. Like the videos I posted this last week. just down at the water or whatever, flying a little mini too. It's 250 grams, and it'll go a mile to 2 miles away from you easy. So you can get some good range and get into places.
Yeah, they got some really good ones. I think when I got mine, they were limited to like 1,100 or something like that, meters or feet or whatever the fuck
Yeah,
it is.
we're
Now they
400
got
feet's the highest we can go up. The rest is supposed to be line of sight. Line of sight. Okay. So you got to be able to see it, basically.
You can see
yeah.
it from about
Oh
a
yeah. I take the restrictor off and goes way above that, dude. And I'm like always, I'm above the planes of flight.
We can go above it. There's no restriction that says we can as far as the drone. It just the rules and regulations through FAA say nothing over 400 feet or like over a building or this or that. You know, certain things. But yeah, you can. There's not a whole lot of. All I gotta do is say, yeah, okay, I authorize myself. Boom, I'm on.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
There isn't too much stoppage.
Yeah, I'm always waiting for them to shoot it down.
Yeah, geofence in the USA is the worst part about DJI, and that's if you're flying with airports or whatever, you can get past that stuff. You just type in. Some of it, you know, is like restricted areas and whatnot that you get caught flying in there, and you'll get big old fines anyway.
You know what's funny is I was telling everyone about this DJI because there's another dude that's flying drones and shit, and I was like, hey man, you can't do that without having it hooked up and shit. You know, you can't take video. It's like that's illegal, bro. It's got to go through the system and shit. He's like, no, I fly my drone all over the fucking place. I'm like, what?
I fly mine with a tablet.
Yeah. Well, I know, but when I first got mine, it said like you had to register with DJI. And I was like, what? You don't have to? I'm like, oh shit, so that's what I do now. I fly my shit with no register.
DJI's got their app and whatnot, but it doesn't really hold you to anything. It's just so that you've got tracking and your information. It's more so that they can find your drone in an emergency or this or that. Or
well, I think a lot of it was in the beginning, you know, it was invasion of privacy. Like you can literally fly this fucker right outside someone's window.
That's why they're trying to say we weren't going to use DJIs for any law enforcement and this and that, but as they've gone through with the geofencing and everything else, they've updated, so they've complied with the American, and so yeah, they're doing all right so far. It just look like remote IDs coming out. That's going to like limit us from doing anything, but it'll be able to track them even more as to where your drone is and where you're standing with the radio in your hand.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Now they can find me too?
Well, you got to think about it. This when the drones, you know, get even better and better, where I can sit here and you can be where you're at, and I can bring you a pound of weed with my drone. That's what it's for, bro. They're getting all of it ready so that way they got everything locked down.
Well, Walmart's
China,
already starting deliveries and whatnot. They're already doing deliveries of like up to 2 pounds or something like that already.
Oh, China. I mean, China has drone
here in the
deliveries
U.S.
for
They're already doing that shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Walmart's got a big old platform and a big old damn drone out there, and they got this little stand that they get into to have a little height and whatnot, and they'll fly it within, I think it's like a mile or something like that, radius or something. They're already dropping deliver your coffee, your ice cream, whatever, right to your door.
That would be wild.
Yeah.
I can't wait till the fucking news reports come out of people getting fucking fucked up by those propellers, bro.
Oh, I didn't see
I'm out there getting my paper. I got decapitated.
He come riding up on his bicycle. I didn't see it. I was dropping off coffee for this guy. And
oh my god,
he's headless now,
dude.
AI is smarter than that, guys. AI is smarter than that.
They're dangerous, man.
Well, they're not using AI. They're using actual pilots that are controlling.
For now.
Yeah, that's going to be a new tech job.
No,
really.
Here's my thing. If I was creator,
I need my 107.
I would put AI in it so that at first I'd have a pilot. So everything that this drone is doing and seeing and it now knows before I activate the AI pilot. But
it's pretty amazing.
Note, it is time to go. Thank you guys for coming in.
Hell yeah, man.
We'll see you tomorrow for Wacky Wednesday. Wacky Wednesday. Also, wrestling is tomorrow. So if you're in town, make sure you go to IWR. You go to purplepass.com/IWR14.
Yeah.
Get your tickets.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yep, we'll be there.
Fuck
All right,
yeah,
guys.
man. That's
Peace
cool.
out, doggies.
Peace out, man. Have a good day, everybody.
Ranger.
Left contact. Just flying.